Is matter impossible without consciousness? Does our mind affect matter? Greetings, mortals, and capital day to y'all. I'm your host Simon. Welcome back to the Library of Gnosis. I'm sure all of you have heard of the famous double slit experiment by now. But for those of you that haven't, I will give a quick refresh. So, the double slit experiment is, as the name would suggest, an experiment using two slits. In this case, cut out of a screen. The experiment is then conducted by shooting photons of light, one at a time, at the screen, which, if the photon behaves like a particle, will either go through one or the other slit and hit the wall behind, creating a pattern of two streaks. But this is not what happens. Instead, light acts as a wave and creates an interference pattern. But what is the photon interfering with? Well, it appears that the photon is interfering with itself. It splits into two and then bounces off itself to create an interference pattern. Scientists decided to put detectors at the slits to see which slit the photon goes through. And surprisingly enough, what happens then is that two lines appear on the wall behind, instead of the interference pattern. It appears that the act of observation changes the state of the photon, and this is the amazing conclusion of the double slit experiment. Then scientists decided to do this experiment 100 times over, but instead of looking at the data, they just recorded it. They recorded the data from the detectors and the wall separately. They then split the 100 into 50-50. They looked at both sets of data, the detectors and the wall from the first 50, just to make sure the experiment was repeatable and they would always get the same results. Two straight lines on the wall behind, and that is exactly what they got. So, for the other 50, they completely erased the data they had recorded from the detectors with no chance of recovery, and just kept the data they recorded from the wall. The results were astounding. All 50 showed not two straight lines as the first 50, even though the data had been recorded at the same time, just not looked at by a person. Instead, all 50 showed an interference pattern. Incredibly, this seems to show that it is not the actual recording of the data that causes a collapse in the probability waveform, but instead, it is the consciousness of an observer that causes the collapse. As all 50 were recorded in the past, this also seems to mean that future events can affect the past, also known as reverse causality. Science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature, and that is because, in the last analysis, we ourselves are part of the mystery we are trying to solve. Max Planck. So, what do you think? Is this ultimate proof that our consciousness affects matter? Why have you not heard of this before? Should it not be a bigger deal? What do you think? Leave it down in the comment section.
Thank you for listening. See you next time, mortal. Remember to hit that bell button to stay notified. Subscribe for more Red Pill content. Do give it a like if you enjoyed it, and feel free to share it. If you want to support my work, you can find me on Patreon at Library of Gnosis. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Bitchute at Library of Gnosis. The audio versions of my broadcasts are available on Spotify as a podcast at Library of Gnosis. Music is produced by Coda.